Welcome to this special episode of the Crypto Leviathan podcast. We're here at the Bitcoin building, and it looks like
it's snowing. It just started snowing.
Yeah, exactly. So this is my new guest on the show. Do you want to introduce yourself to my audience?
Hi there. Hi everyone. I'm Ray Blanchard. I am the primary owner, but I'm one of the owners of the Bitcoin building. And it's my wife and myself. She's my only partner. And so the Bitcoin building is a brand new building that we just finished, but I'll give you a little bit more history about myself. So I'm originally from Toronto. I came to Windsor about 4.5 years ago. I've been in the restaurant industry for about 15 years in a previous marriage. Got out of both of those in 2013. Did some traveling around the world, and I actually got introduced to Bitcoin back in 2013 as I got out of my marriage and previous business. A friend of mine who I went to live with for a little while, he told me about this thing called Bitcoin, and I was like, oh, okay, sounds interesting. And I was a trader at the time. I was doing my trading on my own, trading stocks and derivatives, and so I looked at it, and unfortunately at the time, and I had the money to buy it. It was around $400, and it just had gone from 100 to 400. And I looked at the chart and I was like, no way I'm buying this thing now. You know, it just went up 300%. I'll wait till it comes back.
That's what everyone says.
And it never came back down really. I think it came as low as like 280 or something like that. But I stopped paying attention to it. If I had caught it just before when it was like $100, I probably would have put at least $5,000-$10,000 into it. You know, because I liked everything about it. He didn't tell me about, you know, the whole sovereignty and freedom and difference between money. It was just a new digital currency that was catching on, and I thought that was kind of cool, but I wish I had bought some then. I didn't actually end making my first Bitcoin buy until 2017, something like that. So, yeah.
So this is a beautiful building. Like, I've done the tour, and do you have a lot of artwork in this? Why Bitcoin? Why design a building around Bitcoin specifically?
Okay, so I was just doing flips here in Windsor. I came here to do real estate, to pursue real estate opportunities. So we started doing flips of single family duplexes and triplexes. And then I bought this place, which used to be an old nightclub. It was boarded up. It was being used by drug addicts, you know, as a urinal and drug place in the front. But I bought it back in September 2020, just thinking I'm going to do an apartment building. I'm going to convert it into an apartment building. I saw that I could divide it all up. It was 10,000 square foot, 2-floor nightclub, and I thought, I'm just going to make an apartment building. And I planned it out in my head. I thought, okay, I can get 13 apartments in a commercial space. I had to keep the commercial space for my zoning, to keep my zoning intact. So I did that, and then over time, other things started coming. So the downtown Windsor has what's called a CIP program, a community improvement program. And they offer certain incentives, especially for developers who want to add new residential units to the downtown core, because they want more intensification of residential in the downtown core. So they have this community improvement program, and what it does is it gives you $5,000 in a grant for every new residential dwelling unit you put up to 10, right? So that's $50,000. You know, that sounds nice, but that just basically paid for my building permit, right? My building permit was $50,000.
So they give you the money back and then they take it back.
Yeah, they take my money, and then at the end they're going to give me my building permit fee back, which still is better than nothing. It's better than kicking the head. But so another part of the CIP program is the biggest part is. If you get into the CIP program, they will freeze your property taxes for 5 years at the before renovation levels.
That's fantastic.
Which is a big savings. And I thought, wow, that's great. But me, I'm the kind of person I'm always looking at how can I do more? How can I get more? How can I make it better? Well, they had this other option where they'll freeze your property taxes for 10 years if you go above and beyond. And one of the things you had to do is get LEED certified. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what LEED certification is, it's a independent third-party certification that's done all over North America for the greenest of homes. If you get LEED certified, your property will be in the top 5% of all properties in North America for energy efficiency. Now, this building here again, I'm the kind of person I always want to do more. I want to get better and better. And I said, how can we get LEED Gold? I wanted LEED Platinum, but unfortunately I can't get LEED Platinum. It's only for new builds. So this is an existing building, so I'm going for LEED Gold. And if I get LEED Gold, I'm going to be in the top quarter of 1% for all buildings in North America for energy efficiency. So the big impetus was, and I'm getting back to your question about Bitcoin. This is how it all leads there, okay?
Of course.
Be patient. So that big 10-year tax freeze, which I'm estimating is going to be a $300,000 to $400,000 benefit.
That's huge.
Right? It's a pretty big benefit, right? It's like almost as much as I paid for the building, right? So I wanted that 10-year freeze, not the 5-year freeze. So I said, I'm going to go for the LEED. So the LEED brought me to solar. In order to get to the LEED and LEED Gold, I had to put solar on the roof. So we have a 5,000 square foot roof. I'm going to put 180 to 185 solar panels on there, and we're going to generate a lot of electricity. And so that was great. That was fine. I'm going to get my LEED. I'm going to get my tax thing. I'm going to have an apartment building. But then, and in the beginning, the solar company gave me a projection of how much energy I'm going to get per year, which was about 75 to 80 megawatts per year. And then my LEED certification guy was giving me a projection of how much energy the building's going to take up. And he said at the time it's going to take 80 to 85 megawatts. So I was like, okay, well, the solar's going to offset most of the energy we need. But then newer data came out of the States. Newer data on highly energy efficient apartments, not homes, apartments came out. So I used that data to calculate what I would use. And these apartments are like all Energy Star appliances, LEDs, lots of insulation. You know, the air envelope is sealed, ERVs, everything, right? Mm-hmm. And so these data was more applicable to what I'm doing, but these apartments that they were modeling on were 900 square feet. None of my apartments are 900 square feet. But anyways, I used theirs. And I came up with a calculation, and an annual usage, it's not hard to come up with these, an annual usage, it ended up being about 40 to 45 megawatts. So now I'm sitting there going, well, I'm going to have 30 to 40 megawatts of extra power. What am I going to use that with? Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, I was like, what uses up a lot of power? Bitcoin. Because the thing is, the microfit program in Ontario is long gone. So for solar, you have this net metering program where if you don't use it up in 1 year, you lose it, mm-hmm. right? The grid, the energy grid just says, thank you very much for the free power, and you lose it. You can't even transfer to another property you own. So you have to use it up. So I was thinking, well, what uses a lot of power? And instantly Bitcoin mining, because I had like I told you before, I dabbled into, crypto mining a little bit before years ago. And I knew how much energy intensive it was. And I was like, okay, that's what I'll do. So when I thought I was going to put Bitcoin mining in that little commercial space, which previously I was just going to use it for storage or whatever. And I said, no, I'm going to make a Bitcoin mining office. And then that same day I was like, why don't I just brand the building Bitcoin? Mm-hmm. It's a great brand to attach yourself to. You don't need to pay anyone to use the brand name. It's a free name. And I was like, yeah. And then that day I just instantly went on searching the internet. Is there any Bitcoin buildings? Is there any Bitcoin properties in the world? Am I going to be infringing on anyone's trademark? And I found nothing. And I was like, okay, great. I called my wife. I said, we're going to call this the Bitcoin building. And she's like, cool. And I was like, yeah. And so I started telling all the tradespeople that were working for me. Everyone's just, same reaction. Oh, that's amazing. That's cool. So I was like, I knew I'm onto something. I'm going to call it the Bitcoin building. And I started looking into it. And I've actually registered trademarks in Canada and the United States for the Bitcoin buildings. And they're not granted yet. It's a kind of 2-year process, but I'm the first one to get the applications in. So we're going to protect the brand, and then as soon as I thought about branding the whole building Bitcoin building, that's when we started saying, okay, we got to start decorating. Decorate the hallways with Bitcoin paraphernalia. Let's make it an art gallery of Bitcoin. Let's start putting little Bitcoin things in the apartments. And then I thought, what about the heat? Bitcoin miners give off a lot of heat, and they give off a lot of noise, right? So as you'll see in the pictures, with the noise, we're trying to mitigate the noise with. The room is already well insulated, but we're putting these acoustic paneling up to try and deaden the noise that comes out. And then also for the heat, I was thinking, well, of course I could just duct it outside, but what can I do? How can I use that heat? And I started thinking, okay, you know what? Hot water. Why not just use it to heat the hot water? And so in my original plan, I was going to buy these commercial hot water tanks, invalidate my warranty, just tear them apart and re-engineer it so that I could use the heat from the Bitcoin miners to heat the water coils. But I didn't have to do that. There was actually a solution out there. So Rheem has these great hybrid hot water tanks. It's an electric hot water tank with an electric coil that goes around it, but it has a heat pump on top of it. And the heat pump is designed to take the heat out of the air, condense it so that it gets to a much hotter temperature, and then it heats the water at a very, very low cost. Now, they're more expensive, of course, than your average electric hot water tank, about 3 times as much as expensive. But in the long run, it's much cheaper because you're not paying for all that heat. And so that's how we got into integrating the Bitcoin miners into the mechanical system of the building. It all came from the CIP program, the 10-year tax freeze, my greed to save money, and then that led me to the Bitcoin mining, which led me to the integrating it into the mechanical system, the art gallery, the branding, and here we are today.
That's awesome.
I know that was a long answer. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's perfect because it allows me to ask a lot of questions now. So you basically noticed that, hey, I'm going to get this extra power. I need to do something with it. I don't want to lose it, right? Yeah. Obviously, you're spending money on these solar panels. You're like being that...
Yeah, it was either reduce the amount of solar panels I'm putting up there or find something to do with that power. And what better usage of power, of free power is there than to mine Bitcoin, right?
And how many do you project, like ASICs? How much capacity do you have
So right now, I have 2 ASIC miners. They're not the latest, greatest ASIC miners. They're 3rd generation S17s, S17 Pros. They can generate each one of them about 76 terahash. That's what the previous guy was clocking them at. I bought them used. And then they use up each one of them about 28 kilowatt hours. Or is it 2,800 kilowatt hours. And 2,800 kilowatts per hour. And so I've got 2 miners. I'm starting off with these 2 S17 miners. However, I've spoken to my electrician based on the amperage that the miners use up and the voltage that I have in the building. I could expand up to about 30 miners if I wanted to.
Nice. And I've seen you soundproofed it. You were doing some work around there. What are your bottlenecks do you see for this project? Do you foresee any happening here?
In regards to the mining?
Yeah, in regards to mining.
The biggest bottleneck is power, the expensive power, right? I only have so much free power, and those 2 S17s are actually going to use up all of my excess power, probably more than I have.
That's crazy, right?
Right? I know. Two miners are going to use the same amount of power as the whole 13-unit apartment building. But, it is what it is. So the apartment building itself, by the way, it will be net zero. Technically, it will be one of the first. I thought it was going to be the first in Canada, but I want to be honest. There's 2 that are going through a testing phase in BC, and one of them is finished. So they beat me by a couple of months.
You're the 3rd building.
I'll be the second.
Yeah,
the second one that they're doing is not operational yet. So I think I'm going to technically be the second in Canada. But I don't care. I'll be the second. But I'm the first in Ontario, first in Eastern Canada, but first multifamily net zero building. I even wanted to try and get accreditation for net zero, but when I called them up, because it's the Canadian Builders Association that runs it. And they said, we don't have a certification for multifamily, only for single family homes.
Wow.
Yeah. He says, that's when they told me that they had a couple in the pilot stage, right? And that's one of them, I think, just completed my lead certifier told me it just completed like a few months ago. So they beat me just by a few months. But they don't even have their data in yet. They don't have their data, just like we don't have our data in yet because I don't have my solar on there yet. But their data is not in yet, so there's a possibility they might not make it to net zero, but they probably will. So, but I'm 100% sure we're going to be net zero. So with all that extra energy, the miners are going to use it up. So now the problem, as your bottleneck question is, the problem is, okay, if I want to take on more miners, now I got to pay for electricity off the grid. And that's not very appealing when you're paying 17 cents per kilowatt hour. You're going to lose money, right? Now, lose money at today's prices. You could still mine if you have the financial wherewithal. You could still mine and hold on to this Bitcoin. I guarantee you, long term, it will be super profitable, even at 17 cents a kilowatt hour. However, what I'm planning to do in the future, as I want to expand the mining here, is I'm going to get battery storage, because they have the battery storage technology is really coming along. First I was looking at Tesla power walls, but there's some other brands out there that are a little bit more affordable than the Tesla walls, and they've got a couple other features like portability, which is great, and two of these are less than a Tesla wall, and they can actually store more power than a Tesla wall, and so I plan on buying a bunch of these. They're only like $2 or $3 grand a piece, and they can generate a lot of electricity. So the idea is you get a whole bank of these things, and you charge them up at night when it's only 8 cents per kilowatt hour, or maybe 2.5 if Ford gets this.
I'll just explain to the audience. Like, we have tiered systems, so certain times in the day, like, you have different electricity rates. So when he talks about 17 cents, that's certain time of day is most expensive. 8 cents is our cheapest rate. Go ahead.
So 8 cents is the overnight. We have a mid-tier rate of about 13 or 14 cents, and then we have a high rate, like during the day. What is it?
17 cents.
Yeah, 17 cents. But that's from what, like 8 o'clock in the morning.
It's basically from the morning to like
till people get home. Yeah, or actually till even after they get home. So you obviously want to mine. It's profitable to mine at 8 cents. Much more preferable. So the idea is you fill up your battery storage at 8 cents, and then you run your miners during the mid and high peak times off that battery storage. Have
you looked into the capacity of these battery storage? Because you're going to need quite a bit, right? For like 2/3 of the day. Probably.
Yeah, I did. I did look into it, and I can't remember the calculations off the top of my head, but I think it was 2 of these. You would need 2 of these to run one miner throughout the day, like until you get to the low tier again, right? So for I think it's about 12 hours a day, you're on mid and high tier. So in order to keep that miner running for those 12 hours, I think my calculation was that you would need 2 of these. So you're looking at like $6 grand to buy them, but then you'd be able to mine 24 hours a day at 8 cents a kilowatt hour.
And you're competing with the big boys now in the industry, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're pretty comparable when you look at it in a US dollar price. And just so everyone out there, these are for our Ontario viewers here. Doug Ford, our premier, is proposing to help alleviate everyone's electricity costs. He's proposing an overnight rate cap of 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour.
That's crazy.
If that happens, I'll buy as many of these things as I can, and we'll just keep on filling them up and using those, because then you're essentially mining at 2.5 cents a kilowatt hour.
But that's gonna really kickstart battery technology, because
Absolutely.
Everyone's now gonna be looking at it's 2.5 cents during the night. I'm gonna get a huge battery pack
Absolutely.
in my house. My whole power is now gonna be running at
Absolutely.
2.5 cents.
Yeah. So battery storage is going to become huge, which is great for Windsor, Ontario, because we are now going to have the largest EV battery plant in all of Canada, if not all of North America.
I wouldn't be surprised if entrepreneurs now start coming up with ideas to put them in the houses and stuff. If this
Absolutely.
comes into fruition.
And I just read an interview the other day, like Tesla is not a car company. It's actually a battery company.
Energy company.
Yeah, it's an energy company, but their biggest revenue in the future will be from batteries, right? Not from selling cars. And so battery technology and battery storage is the future. I think it's going to revolutionize the world. And if you indulge me for a minute, I'm going to take you down my rabbit hole of where I think the world's going to go.
Let's see this.
Feel free to comment all you want, but this is just mine. It's based on what my ideas of where the world's going to go. So the internet led to decentralization of information. We all know Bitcoin is leading to the decentralization of money and financial services. Energy is the next big thing, right? And Bitcoin is also helping to decentralize energy. But when battery storage gets to the point where we can store, where an individual can have a battery in their home, store it, fill it up either off the grid or solar or geothermal, whichever way they want, Bitcoin miners, whatever, right? They fill it up, and And if that storage can actually last 3 or 4 months, even 2 months, right? Now that changes the game. Solar's already the cheapest form of electricity in the world, right?
Yeah.
But when you can store it for a long period of time without losing it, and it's safe, it's not going to blow up your house, that changes everything. What's going to happen is everyone's going to go to solar or geothermal, and everyone's going to be storing their own electricity, and no one's going to need the grid. And so what happens is the whole energy grids, which are now completely centralized around the world, they all become decentralized, right? So now you have small little grids everywhere, even in their own homes, or maybe a little community has their own grid, or a block of a city has their own grid, and they all share their battery storage. And
just think about what that would do to the economy now. It's like now if the power plant shuts off, I still have power. I still can connect to the internet.
Power becomes free. And imagine what that does to the economy, right? When power essentially becomes free, and now everyone can do Bitcoin mining and earn money, it's unbelievable. So that's the first thing. Now I'm going to take you a little further down the rabbit hole. So now when power becomes such low cost or free, because solar energy is free, right? Once you pay for the cost of the panels. And by the way, I just want to, as a side note, everyone talks about solar being so, it's not that green, because the battery, because the solar panels and everything, there's a lot of carbon release when you build the solar. I'll give them that, right? But solar technology is going to become better, and the efficiency is going to become better, and they'll probably come up with better materials that are less harmful. So battery technology in the future, I've watched this program where they're in the lab testing right now, and it's going to be available for purchase very soon. They're coming out with these new batteries that don't use lithium or ion and cadmium and all this stuff. These
like solid state batteries.
No, they're called sodium carbon batteries. All right, they outperform lithium ion in the lab already. And sodium and carbon are the two most abundant elements on our planet.
Yeah.
You don't have to go mine them. You don't have to pay children in Africa to do it, or not pay them, whatever. But regardless, it cleans up the whole battery ECG or whatever, environmental stigma to batteries and solar, right? When you can start using these things to generate and store electricity, these type of batteries that are actually sequestering carbon, because you're taking carbon and sequestering it and making a battery that will work. It's amazing. So again, when battery technology gets to this point, everyone's going to start using it. The electricity grids become decentralized, and cars are going to be running on electricity. They already are, but everyone's going to start switching to electricity. Fossil fuels are dead. It's game over. It's an extinction level event for fossil fuels when batteries can hold charges for 3 months, 2 months. Planes as well. Planes will start flying on electricity, right? And what's going to happen is our boy Elon is going to start taking over the flying car market. And you're going to have flying cars that run on free electricity. So what happens then? What happens when there's 5 million flying cars and they have to come up with all these new traffic laws and everything, for people, just like the Jetsons, right? But here's the thing. How do you patrol a border when there's 200 or 300,000 flying cars that are going across the borders at not a centralized point? They can go over a river. They can go over a forest. They can go over a mountain.
Yeah.
They can go anywhere, right? How do you patrol your border? The nation states break down. Nation states disappear. It now becomes all decentralized communities that act, in the best interests of their communities. You're going to see the end of nation states, which leads to the end of war, which leads to the end of poverty, believe it or not, which leads to total abundance and freedom. You can travel around the world for free. That's where I think the world's going.
I love that vision. I would love to see that vision come true. Hopefully we're alive for that to happen.
I think we will. I think we will be. I think we're both young enough that we're both gonna see it in our lifetimes.
Awesome. So let's go back to the
Thanks
Bitcoin.
For indulging me on that.
Of course. Let's go back to the Bitcoin building. So I've seen a lot of artwork here, and I was actually thinking of a really cool idea you could probably do. So that artwork, you're aware of NFT artwork, right?
Yes.
So an idea I've always had was you take the artwork, buy it, and then you've also heard of the Samsung frame, right? That TV that looks like a picture. Mm-hmm. Take that NFT art, put it in a Samsung frame.
Already thinking about it.
Really?
Yeah, we want to definitely put up. We've got a lot of artwork up here, but it's just canvas artwork.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to put up some digital artwork, which is more aligned with the Bitcoin. So yeah, we definitely want to put some digital artwork. Some of it, and we want to put it digitally so it slowly changes over time as well. And then we could even have videos. Like anyone who comes and stays at this building, because we're going to be doing a lot of short-term rentals and mid-term rentals. So anyone who comes to this building, I want to orange pill them. I want there to be. We already got Satoshi's white paper up there they can read. We want to have convincing artwork that it motivates them. But I also want to have like a video that they can listen to. And I'm going to provide links and stuff. If you really want to learn about Bitcoin, come here and try and orange pill people.
So you're kind of creating almost like a Bitcoin museum in some way.
Sort of, yeah. I started calling it a Bitcoin museum, but I thought a museum is a little bit more encompassing than just having art on the walls.
Yeah.
But maybe as we expand into more interactive displays on the walls, then yeah, maybe. And I eventually want to get a Bitcoin ATM. Outside of the building so that people can either inside or outside of the building. I want to get a Bitcoin ATM. And believe it or not, I've contacted 2 companies in Michigan and 1 here in Ontario, and none of them are interested in having a Bitcoin ATM at the Bitcoin building.
That's crazy.
I don't know. That's weird.
Well, start your own.
But hey, if they're out there and they hear this, give me a call. I might have to buy my own. I might have to actually buy my own Bitcoin ATM. I'm sure somebody's selling them, so I might just buy my own. And we're also going to be talking to, we also want to put, as another first for Windsor, we want to put the first EV power charger out front of the building as well. Because these things are money makers. I didn't know this, but one of my tenants who's going to be doing Airbnb arbitrage in the building, he's into solar and energy, and he's into EV charging stations. And he tells me, yeah, these are really, you can make really good money, especially, again, if we're charging... If we're charging our battery storage at night at cheap rates and then selling it to people through the EV charger, we can probably undercut a lot of the other EV chargers and still make good money. Yeah. So that's another business model I'm going to be looking at in the future.
Yeah, I call them EV gas stations.
Yeah, it's like running your own little gas station. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and there's none in downtown Windsor right now.
No,
there's none. So we want to be the first to do that.
Yeah. So let's pivot back to the Bitcoin building. So a lot of the design, there's a lot of Bitcoin snippets and around there. What was what inspiration did you find to actually design the building? Who designed it?
Well, my wife and I, we loved the Bitcoin thing. So we were thinking about, okay, how can we Bitcoin this? How can we Bitcoin that? I can show you, we have some knobs. I don't know, are they in this unit? No. They're in the next unit. I have some doorknobs, kitchen doorknobs that have the Bitcoin logo on them. I have pillows here. I'll show you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So we got Bitcoin themed pillows. We've got Bitcoin themed blankets. We've got Bitcoin artwork. The door handles, I don't know if you noticed the door handles when you walked in. They have the handles on the doors have the Bitcoin logo on them.
You have the nice logo in front of the building.
Yeah, we have the Bitcoin sign in the front, and at the back of the building we have some artwork up on the back of the building, it's all spray painted on there, and it's all Bitcoin, fix the money, fix the world.
Yeah. So yeah, at one time when I was redoing my roof, and I was putting a silicone on the roof to as a waterproof membrane, I put a big Bitcoin bee on there, and I left that on there for a few months. So yeah, so we're always looking at ways of, just integrating it. I don't want to do too much because I don't want it to be too tacky or anything. We're just doing nice little accents here and there. Obviously the hallways are more of a feature, but in the units, I still want it to be, a livable unit. I don't think anyone wants to turn around and see Bitcoin everywhere. Oh, and one of the biggest things I forgot, which you can show your listeners, is our shower niches. We have these custom tiles in our shower niches. I took a picture of one
with the Bitcoin, with the Bitcoin logos all over the world, right? So yeah, I'm a big. I consider myself a Bitcoin maximalist. I don't advocate for I'd say 99.99% of all the other altcoins or shit coins, you want to call it. Trade them if you want, make some money, great for you. But yeah, the only thing I would hold long term is Bitcoin. The only exception, we are mining one other coin here, and that is the Helium network, which I think is going to be, I can't be 100% sure, but I think it's going to be a game changer as well. They're building out the largest Wi-Fi hotspot network in the world, and I think they're going to disrupt some industries, some big industries. So we're mining that here.
The way I look at it, it's the decentralized internet. That's the end goal where you can achieve with Helium, right? Because each node connects to each other, and if you have this around the world,
you don't need a central IP. No one can police it. I love that. So that's why as soon as I heard about the whole Helium network, and by the way, you can buy it for $2.50 a coin right now. Buy it. If I had my refinance done right now, I'd be buying thousands and thousands of them. But if that's the only other coin I really, really like. I'm sure there's some other coins out there that have really good usage cases. Another one that I made a lot of money on was Polymath. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No, explain that one.
So Polymath is a coin that allows for the tokenization of assets. So this building, for example, if I wanted to sell this building, I basically have to sell the whole building, right? I can't sell part of it. If it was a condo, if I converted it into a condo, then I could sell individual units. But this is an apartment building, not a condo. And there's a whole bunch of regulatory crap that comes with turning it into a condo. But with Polymath, I could tokenize this building and sell you $20 worth of this building. I could sell you 200, or I could sell you 200,000 or $2 million of it. So I could break this building's ownership up into 1 million tokens and then sell them off. Now, technically, that would be like selling unregistered securities, so they still have to work all that out. I wouldn't want to go down that rate yet, but eventually, I think it's going to allow for decentralized, like you can decentralize your own assets and sell them off, and while still controlling them too. Like you could do like what corporations do. You could have, well, these are super voting shares and these are non-voting shares, and you could sell those non-voting tokens, right? And so you'd still have control of the building, but you could sell off the building mostly. So I think that has a really interesting application use.
Yeah, and just talking more about that, I think the big problem right now with crypto is the lack of regulation. Like you said, like it's an unregistered security. I don't want to go to jail for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have you been following the FTX fallout?
Oh yeah.
That's like
what a disaster.
Some people have called it the Lehman Brothers of crypto, and I'm like, yeah, it's the second biggest exchange going under, and then they invested in Solana and all these different projects across the board.
They could bring a couple more down with
it. Yeah, it probably will. It's probably the first domino.
Yeah, if you look at Solana, like the price, it's down like 95% from the high. It's teetering.
And I think this is the point where like regulators need to step in and be like, what do we need some rules here, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because exchanges have been going down for how many years now? This isn't new, but this is the biggest one.
Yeah. I agree with Michael Saylor. We really need regulation. And regulation is not a bad thing for the industry. It's actually going to be a springboard for the industry. Yeah. Because once you've got that regulation in place, then the big institutional money can play. I mean, they're already starting to play. The whole announcement, I think one of the biggest announcements ever for Bitcoin was when BlackRock said that they were going to integrate Coinbase. That's trillions of dollars that are going to come into Bitcoin in the next 5 to 6 months. Trillions. And that's why I tell everyone right now, you're looking at 10x, 20x in Bitcoin in the next 18 months.
And this is not financial advice, it's just what you think.
It's not financial advice, just my opinion. Yeah, I'm not a financial expert or anything, but in my opinion, I plan on, when I refinance this building, buying a big chunk of Bitcoin. Like I'll be. I heard this. They came up with new classifications of whales and all this stuff. I'll actually be a whale. I'll be a Bitcoin whale. Yeah, I'll own enough.
Part of our joke on Instagram is like Bitcoin whale in the making.
yeah. Although I thought a Bitcoin whale would be someone that has thousands and thousands of them, but I think you need to have like 20.
Yeah, it's just the price, right?
Yeah. 20 Bitcoin in your whale. I'm like, okay, I can afford that.
It's because the market's very illiquid right now. So like to move the market, if you sell like 20 Bitcoin at once, that's gonna tank the price pretty easily.
Really? You think that much?
Well, because the liquidity is so low right now.
Oh, well, okay. I haven't been on the exchange in a long time, right? Because I only buy and hold, right? But I haven't been on. But I remember the last time I was on, and I used to be a Binance trader. You know, I used to do all my trades on Binance, and then they got into that big fight with the Ontario Securities Exchange, and now they kicked me off basically.
Yep.
So so instead of me going through the problem of registering with another exchange, I already had an account open with KuCoin, so I just started using KuCoin, right? And but I move everything off of KuCoin. I have a ledger, and I keep everything on a ledger,
same.
right? But I'm going to be starting up a new account with CoinSmart, right? Which is now fully regulated, so I don't have to worry about, you know, they have the KYC and all that crap, but they're fully regulated, so you don't have to worry about them being, you know, put out of business by the regulators one day. I think they're Canada's first fully regulated exchange. So and CoinSmart has actually reached out to me because they love what I was doing here at the Bitcoin building. So we're going to be doing some cross promotions with them. They seem like great people, and I love the way the CEO we were just talking off the cuff the other day, and he told me that during the trucking convoy, you know, when the government was trying to stop the Bitcoin and the crypto usage by the organizers of the trucking convoy, they contacted him and they said, and I hope I'm okay with telling this, but they said to him, we want you to freeze all these accounts. We want you to do this. And they were sending them, the government was sending him like personal, private information of these people that he should not have been seeing. And I love the fact that he just told the government, go fuck yourself. Yeah. Sorry if you're not supposed to swear.
That's fine.
Yeah. He said, yeah, go screw yourself. You know, that's it. I'm not complying. You know, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do according to the regulations, but but these demands that you're making, I don't think they're legal, and I'm not going to comply. And I love the fact that they did that, and it just tells you the mindset of that organization. I'm like, okay, I want to be, you know, aligned with these guys.
Well, it's kind of like the government. I don't want to go too political in this, but yeah, they did a lot of shady things during this time, and I'm glad to see people were standing up to that. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, whether you agree with the protests and everything that happened with it, we still have to defend people's right to make a protest. And if it's inconvenient for us, too bad. Yeah. That's democracy, right? You know, I'm sorry. Maybe they overdid it with the horns at night and stuff like
absolutely.
that. They probably could have done it a little bit better. But at the same time, they were standing up for everyone's freedom and everyone's rights, for choice. You know, for medical freedom. Yeah.
We allow protests all the time. It's like, is this any different?
Yeah. You're driving down the street, a protest comes. Oh my God, I now have to do a 20-minute detour. I don't go to the government and say, hey, you got to stop these goddamn protests, right? Yeah. Yeah. You know, you put up with it. This is part of democracy. Yeah. People have a right to do it, whether you agree with what they're protesting against or not.
I'd rather have people out on the street protesting versus violence. That's always my opinion, right? Because if you don't allow protests, you don't allow any expression. What's the alternative?
And the laughable thing was they were trying to say, oh, it was a violent protest. This was the most peaceful protest. They had like bouncy gyms up there, and everyone was singing along, and it was great.
It's like there's like always a couple of bad actors in the protest,
of course,
and each side always picks them out, and that's nothing new. It's just politics,
and the media was just. We could go down. We could talk about.
That's another rabbit hole. Yeah,
absolutely.
But going back to the building, so what's the plan? Are you planning to make this a franchise? Are you planning to expand it?
So my goal is, at first my goal was just to get this building finished. But we're days away from getting occupancy from the city, and we'll start renting, having people stay here, and we're going to keep building on this building. I plan on going around promoting this building, but my plans are for the winter. This winter, it's going to be the first winter I'm skipping winter in Canada. We're going down. My wife and I and my son. We're going to go down to Florida. We're going to look at some properties in Florida. Our plan is to go down to Brazil and look at some properties in Brazil. There's one particular city that we really love. It's called Florianopolis in Brazil. Lots and lots of expats, very, very safe, about 9 hours south of Rio, and perfect climate. So we're thinking of going down there, but with all the election, problems there, we'll see. obviously, if El Salvador can get this their Bitcoin bonds issued, and I will be buying some, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but they're talking about if you buy $250,000 worth of the Bitcoin bonds, you get automatic citizenship to El Salvador. And a lot of people don't know this, but El Salvador passports can get you into more visa-free countries than a Canadian passport.
Really?
Yeah. It's like 180 something countries you can get into visa-free. Canada's only 140 something.
How's the safety in El Salvador? I know they had a long problem.
They had a lot of problems. I've actually been to El Salvador myself, but in San Salvador was the hub of most of the crime, and it was all gang related.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, there were sometimes tourists and regular people that got caught up in it, but it was really, really bad. But Bukali has really cracked down and really did a big change in the country, and now their crime rate is less than most cities in the United States. Their murder rate, their average crime rate, it's dramatically dropped.
Well, U.S. is going up crazy.
Yeah, the U.S. is going up because of Antifa and the whole woke movement and crap.
And also there's some crazies on the right too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's crazies on both sides,
yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, El Salvador and Bukali, he's done a great job, and I loved his announcement about Bitcoin City. If he goes ahead with that, I will be there developing a resort down there on the beach.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Another Bitcoin themed one?
Yeah, of course. So the idea is all of my properties going forward will be Bitcoin branded, right? That's why the website that the DNS web, is it DNS? Yeah. The website that I got is bitcoinbuildings.com, not Bitcoin building. Thebitcoinbuildings.com, not thebitcoinbuilding.com. And yeah, so I want to build out a network of 50 to 100 of these around the world. And then eventually, when you have that many around the world, you can start up memberships and stuff like that.
Kind of like the Marriott.
Yeah,
other,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you give off points and advantages to your club members and all that. So yeah, eventually there might be like, properties that you, as a Bitcoiner, you can go to around the world, and everything is, in alignment with the Bitcoin tenets and the Bitcoin standards. So
awesome. And can you pay in Bitcoin?
Yes. Absolutely. I'll accept Bitcoin payments right now for rent as well.
Awesome.
In fact, if you're going to pay Airbnb, right? Like, let's say you were to book a building, an apartment through Airbnb or VRBO or Booking.com, they currently don't give you an opportunity to pay through crypto.
Yeah.
But if you were to book directly with me or even one of my tenants who are going to be offering subletting out on short-term, mid-term rate basis, we will accept crypto, right? I'm pretty sure most of them will, but for sure I will. If you want to pay me in crypto, no problem at all.
Awesome.
Yeah. But just book directly with me. That's all.
Yeah, there's some third parties that offer this service. Yeah. I'm sure you'll figure that out as time goes on.
And I think this building is, as it catches on and it becomes more and more popular, I think we're going to get some big name celebrities out here. I'm going to try and get your boss Jack out here. I guarantee you one day I'm going to get Michael Saylor to come stay at this Bitcoin.
That'd be great.
For sure. Michael Saylor, Greg Foss for sure. All the fellow Canadian Bitcoiners for sure. But I'd like to get some of the biggest names out here. Max Kaiser, all these guys.
And I have a question. Why Windsor? Why did you build this in Windsor?
That was just circumstance. I was in Windsor. I was doing real estate in Windsor. And like I said, this was not meant to be a Bitcoin building at first. It was just going to be an apartment building, a great real estate investment. But with everything that we went through with COVID and all the restrictions and the infractions on civil liberties that took place, not just in Canada, but around the world, I saw the value of Bitcoin more and more and more. And I was like, and the value of protecting freedom and individual rights. And that's all, Bitcoin's all about that, right? So because I was already here doing the project, it kind of led to Bitcoin. And then that's what led to the Bitcoin being here. If I had to start it all over and I had the idea to do a Bitcoin building, I probably wouldn't have picked Windsor as my first location. I would have picked more of an international city. But Windsor's not bad. I think Windsor is actually, for anyone who doesn't know, Windsor's right on the border with Detroit. We're just a little small river separating the two of us. We can be in, you and I, we could get out and go and be in Detroit in like 5 minutes.
Right now.
Literally, in 5 minutes, we could be in Detroit. And so, and it's not very hard to cross the border anymore. It's very easy.
And just for our audience knows, like, we're not Detroit. We're way safer. It's like a totally different city.
Well, Detroit's getting a lot better too.
The downtown is.
Yeah, the downtown is definitely being revitalized. Just like the downtown of Windsor has had some issues, but we're definitely going to be revitalizing it. Now, Windsor, a lot of people don't know this, but Windsor it's probably in size, I think it's still in the top 10 of all cities in Canada for size. However, I think we are gonna outgrow all the other cities in Canada over the next 5 to 10 years. And my personal forecast is that within 5 to 10 years, Windsor Essex County will have a population that exceeds 1 million. All right. Our importance in Canada, which would make us then, if we exceed 1 million, that will make us the 4th biggest city, right behind Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. I don't even think Calgary has 1 million people yet.
They're getting
They might be close.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll still be behind Calgary, but we'll be in the top 5, which is pretty great.
And why do you say that about Windsor?
Well, Windsor is very economically important to Canada. We noticed that when there was the blockades at the Ambassador Bridge, all
the manufacturing is here.
All the manufacturing in Canada is here, and it's just going to be more intensified here. We've got $25 billion worth of projects. This is a community. This is a county that has only 500,000 people in it right now, but we have $25 billion worth of projects that are ongoing right now. We have a new bridge, the Gordie Howe Bridge. We have a mega hospital that's being constructed. We have the EV battery plant by Stellantis and LG. We have an Amazon distribution center. And then we have all these other developments that are going on to support all of this. And we have the Bitcoin building.
And probably countless others that we haven't named yet.
And just in the downtown core, I'm aware of $500 million. I know personally of $500 million worth of development going on, residential development going on in the downtown core. So the downtown, and that doesn't include all the new pizzas and restaurant places that we have coming up.
The tech companies too that are coming down here.
Yeah. We have the Quicken Loans headquarters, Rocket Mortgages. Yeah. They just expanded to a second office. Yeah. Like, it is going to really, really grow. And in Windsor's power usage over the next 5 years is expected to double.
That's crazy.
Right? The largest city in Canada, which is Toronto, they're only expected to go up 7% in their power usage in the next 5 years.
What does that tell you?
Windsor's going to double. Yeah. And so Windsor's got a really bright future. I'm totally invested in Windsor, so I might be a little biased, but still, if you look at the demographics and the economics, Windsor is going to explode. And if you come to Windsor and invest in Windsor right now, and by the way, Windsor has the best climate in all of Canada.
Ontario,
we hardly have a winter. We hardly have a winter at all. Like maybe 2 weeks.
Like today. This is the worst. This probably gets.
Yeah, it doesn't really get much worse than this at all. And right now you can walk out there without a winter coat, just a hoodie on, and you'll be fine. And Windsor's considered the Florida of Canada.
It is, yeah.
And so I've been telling people lately, because the Bitcoin building, if maybe he's going to show you what it looks like at night, but the Bitcoin building lights up at night. All the railings light up. We're bringing South Beach to the Florida of Windsor.
I'd love to see that.
Windsor, to the Florida of Canada, we're bringing the South Beach look.
In particular, like the downtown area. For anyone who doesn't know, downtown Windsor was run down for many, many decades at this point. But now,
for 2 decades, right? It was really, a lot of people don't know this, but Windsor's downtown was just booming in the 90s. But after 2001, the whole plane crashes and everything, then the Americans changed. The Americans and Canadians toughened up the laws passing through land borders. And that really affected Windsor's downtown, because all those Americans that were coming in every weekend, they just stopped.
Yeah.
And then Windsor's downtown just took a big dump, and it became really bad. I mean, basically the drug addicts took over. Fentanyl came out, and it really hit Windsor hard.
It was horrible. Yeah. I think the bottom was a couple of years ago. I think now it's people. I know locals have the reputation of being downtown, but I lived in Toronto, came back as an outsider. I'm like, it's actually pretty nice now.
Yeah, it's getting a lot better. There's, like I said, there's a lot of development going on. in 5 to 10 years from now, Windsor's downtown will be booming again, and it will be a great place to come to. And Windsor will be one of the best. Windsor's the most affordable of all the major cities in Canada right now. Yeah. And with all the people that can now telecommute to work,
I'm one of them.
Why would you want to live in the most expensive, congested city like Toronto or Vancouver when you could live in Windsor, the best climate? Windsor's got an international airport, but not that many destinations.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah, it's going to be more. More is coming. But right across the river, you got Detroit's international airport. You can fly anywhere in the world from Detroit. Yeah. I've done it a couple times myself.
Not to mention, we have like big city amenities just across the border. A lot of people don't know
On
that.
the other side, you got the NFL. And these are right in the downtown. You got NFL, NHL, NBA, and Major League Baseball, all in the downtown.
Everything.
All in the downtown. And then,
And what I tell other people is like, you're jealous? We can watch NFL games here. You guys can't.
Yeah, you can't do that in Toronto. You can't do that anywhere in Canada. You can't watch an NFL game. But 5 minutes away. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to one in December. I'm organizing a group of guys to go to one in December. We're going to do a great tailgating party. I'm going to put the Bitcoin sign up everywhere. So cool.
That's another thing I think Windsor has an advantage of, even for cryptocurrencies, is our proximity to the U.S.
Absolutely.
Like a lot of like what's it called? Rocket Mortgages set up here. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these crypto U.S. based companies are going to look at, Windsor's nearby. It's a growing city. Let's
Absolutely
invest here.
Absolutely. And if you look at the amount of investment that's going on, this is why I came with the business model of, instead of doing long-term rentals, I'm focusing on a niche here in Windsor, which I call executive transitional housing, because we have so many engineers, managers, and executives coming for these big projects like the hospital, the bridge, the EV battery plant. They need somewhere to live. They want a nice place to live that's furnished. They don't have to worry about setting up the utilities. They've got parking here. I've even got, if you come and stay here, you get a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-year gym membership to a full-size gym, which is a 20-second walk away. And they've got a sauna and everything. It's a great. True Fitness is a partner of ours.
And this may sound like not a big deal, but for Windsor, this stuff didn't exist.
Yeah. No one was offering this stuff. No. And so I'm also going to be leasing out a couple of hybrid cars from Ford, and I want to do one with Ford and one with Chrysler, because they are still the biggest employers here. This is still a motor city, and so I'm going to lease a few cars out, and I'm actually going to do car rentals for guests that stay here. So I'm going to offer a complete solution. You can come here, you can stay in a furnished executive apartment, and you got gym membership, you've got parking, and you can have a car as well. Yeah, so it's everything all in one. And I won't charge you $2,000 a month for a rental car.
The rental rates during the pandemic were insane.
And they're still pretty insane.
They've come down, but yeah, you're right. They're still crazy. Same with hotel prices, I've noticed, because I'm going to Vancouver in 2 weeks. It's like the prices have dipped of hotels.
Really? I just went and stayed in the U.S. I went to Michigan last weekend, and I was at a Quality Inn paying $300 a night. Wow. A Quality Inn. And that was the only one we could get, because everything else was booked.
Yeah, I was looking at even Toronto. I was looking at it used to be like $500 a night a couple months ago. Now it's like $300. So it seems like
this recession I think is affecting it a little bit. We are in a recession, Bank of Canada. I'm sorry, we are in a recession.
Anyone who says we're not in a recession doesn't understand economics.
Absolutely, you can try and change the definition all you want.
It's not even a definition. Just because the GDP doesn't going down, look at how people are spending. Look at how people are reacting, right? Like a lot of people are just holding money, right? Because inflation's gone up, wages haven't caught up, so they're spending less.
Look at the stock market. Look at the real estate market.
Everything's down.
Everything's down, right?
Yeah, we're starting to get layoffs now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They're saying unemployment's so strong. Talk to people on the street.
Unemployment always lags.
Yeah,
it's a lagging indicator. But absolutely, I think we're definitely in a recession now. I don't think it's going to be a long-lived recession.
It doesn't seem that way.
I agree with a lot of the big, well-known, like Kathy Wood and everything. They say, and Lynn Alden, they're all saying that we are going to be headed into a period of stagflation.
Yeah.
So basically means we have no economic growth or low economic growth, but we have consistently high inflation. And so I think that's what we're going to be. Inflation's not going away. Our governments are not, the printing press is not stopped. They can't afford it. And as they raise interest rates, their carrying charges, their interest charges go up crazy amounts.
Have you read about the recent Canadian budget? They said, oh yeah, like from inflation we're generating more revenue, but all the debt that's renewing, they're paying more, so they're not making that much more.
Do you know, in Canada, for our federal government, provincial and municipal governments combined have $28 trillion in debt.
That's as much as the U.S.
So every 1% that they raise interest rates increases their carrying charges by $28 billion.
That's crazy.
They're already not able to balance their budget.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Windsor, municipally, we run a surplus.
I know. We're one of the only municipalities.
I don't know of any municipality that's running a surplus, but
go to Toronto.
Yeah. Hats off to the municipal government of Windsor because they're actually running a surplus. We're not running a deficit here.
Yeah, we have some of the most fiscally conservative councils.
Yeah,
here.
Drew Dilkins is whether you like him or not as a politician, you know what? He's been running. I mean, I know he took over from others, but hey, I guess you have to give credit to all the city council, but you know what? They're running a tight ship, and good for them.
Yeah, look at how much
Canada. The idiots in Ottawa should actually take notice and say, hey, let's start running our ship like Windsor. And then maybe we'll start growing like Windsor is growing.
Because what's going to happen right now? They don't need to raise property taxes as much.
No.
Now all these others that have a lot of debt, renews, they're going to need to jack them up.
Absolutely.
Windsor's going to be like, you know what? We don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
So all these places where people complain Windsor has probably property taxes, it's going to be low.
But they'll never. Here's the thing: they're in a debt spiral. Yeah. They'll never be able to raise taxes enough to pay off the debt. Because the more taxes they raise, the less economic activity. That means the less taxes they bring in. Inflation. They can't stop printing money. Inflation won't stop. The only way out the governments have is devaluation.
Yep.
They have to steal the wealth of Canadians through inflation, and they have to devalue their wealth by devaluing.
And what does that mean to people? Your pensions can be worthless.
Pensions are worthless.
Your house, like if you don't own assets,
if you don't. Even I would even argue that if your house is not an income producing house, it doesn't have cash flow, that's going to go down in value as well because it's denominated in Canadian dollars.
But I mean, that's a little bit different because it is a limited asset. So even if you own a house, it will go up in Canadian dollars, but in real terms, it may not.
But against other currency, it's going to go down, right?
But everyone else is printing money in the world too.
I agree. So I personally believe that all the fiats are crashing. The British pound, the German, so the euro, the British pound, they've already started crashing. Everything's going to crash before the U.S. dollar. U.S. dollar will be last, but it's going to go too. It's gone, and eventually everyone moves to the Bitcoin standard, or some kind of commodity based currency, which again would just be another fiat because whenever you have a commodity-based currency, like whether it's backed by gold or oil or whatever,
or nothing,
if it's being run by humans, it's corruptible, right? Well, Bitcoin's not corruptible because it's run by code, not by humans.
There actually is some people that say that the Lightning Network. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That could be corrupted because it's because you're representing Bitcoin on another layer.
Well. It's another layer on top of Bitcoin, but it can't change Bitcoin.
It can't, but this is where the incentive comes in. What if we add more Bitcoin to this pool so we make more money, but it's still so like the 2 Bitcoins.
But in order to add more Bitcoin, you actually have to get a consensus on the Bitcoin.
You're not adding Bitcoin. You're adding them only on the Lightning node.
How can you add Bitcoin?
Because the way Lightning node makes transactions faster is it waits to schedule transactions on the actual network.
Yeah, but it all has to be verified through the Bitcoin network.
It has to be. But here's the catch. You add them to the Lightning network, and then you have some sort of algorithm that converts them. So it appears that you've traded more, but in reality you haven't. Do you understand what I mean? Because it's representing Bitcoin. Whenever something represents something, there's that incentive to, hey, what if we send some or add some that don't actually exist?
I understand. Now, you're a developer in this space. You know more than I do. So I'm not going to pretend that I can argue or even talk about it at the same level as you do. My understanding is that everything that happens on the Lightning Network, the value of the Lightning Network is that it allows for scale and speed. But everything that happens on the Lightning Network is dependent upon verification and consensus on the Bitcoin network. Now, if funny stuff starts happening over here, I don't think the miners are going to start verifying it. I don't know if there's even a mechanism in place for that.
And that's the problem, right? Because imagine I send you money on a Lightning Network, and you send someone, and then you add 2 to send someone else, and I add 3.
But
right?
How do you add that? How do you do that?
It's a node, right? So imagine you're a bad player, right? So
I'm a node on the Lightning Network.
Yeah. Imagine you want. Okay, I'm going to send you 2 fraudulently. As long as everyone else is in agreement on the node, or vast majority, and then you lie to the Bitcoin saying, "Hey, only one was sent." Mm-hmm. Now, do you see the problem? Now there's an extra one flowing in the Lightning node, not necessarily the Bitcoin. I'm not saying this is how it works right now, but there is that potential risk.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that. I wonder, though, I would love to hear some opinion of people who, like some Lightning developers. I would love to hear their opinion.
Because I have that concern. Yeah. And also, this is my concern also with crypto, right? Let's say I own 100 Bitcoin. I lend to you 50, and you lend 25 or 30. Mm-hmm. You're creating more Bitcoin in theory, right? Because that's what our financial system does. 21 million actually exist, but the total amount borrowed is more. So that still doesn't solve that problem either.
That means you're creating derivatives,
yeah.
Or debt-based derivatives. But I think but that's not actually creating Bitcoin. That's creating debt on Bitcoin. That's creating fiat debt based on Bitcoin.
But that is increasing the supply of money technically.
It is. But it's not increasing the supply of Bitcoin.
No.
There's only going to be that one Bitcoin.
No, you're right.
What you're creating is debt that is backed by one Bitcoin.
Yes.
And right now, essentially in fiat, that's what they do. They take a treasury. They take $100 billion of treasuries, and then they'll do derivatives on top of it and turn it into trillions of dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's crazy.
The good thing about Bitcoin, I guess, it's somewhat limited because they can't keep growing it, right?
Since we're talking about this, I'll give you what my concern is for Bitcoin, and then I'll give you the both sides of it. Mm-hmm. So my concern for Bitcoin going forward is that Bitcoin is so tightly held. I heard an estimate just today that that apparently there's maybe only maximum 5 million worth of Bitcoin in circulation. The rest of it is all being held and hasn't been moved in a long time, or it's been lost.
Yep.
Right? By human error, this leads me to the two things that I think the two biggest threats to Bitcoin is us, our stupidity. Humans are so fallible that we're losing so much Bitcoin because of our own mistakes. Mm-hmm. So, and that finality of the loss has to be there because that's what keeps everything accountable, right? And unreproducible. But so here's the thing. What if the last Bitcoin's not going to be released until 2140, but what if all of them are lost by that time? Then what good is the Bitcoin, right?
Exactly.
Then Bitcoin loses its utility. What if by the time the last ones are released, there's only 1 million left, right? Oh, technically that's still 100 million Satoshis, but the world can't operate on 100 million of anything. We need much more currency than that. So that's a big risk right now that if humans keep losing them. However,
the consensus could do something about that.
The consensus could do something about that, but also I was listening to a podcast by Mark McCullough, I think. He has his own podcast in UK, and he had this guy who was into quantum computers, and he was talking about when we think we'll get quantum computing. And this guy who knows a lot more than me, he was sitting there going, there probably is already some version of a quantum computer in existence. It's not being told. No one's talking about it because, you would lose all your advantage. And,
of course.
And the governments would come and invade you and crack down on you. But he goes, by the time it's publicly announced that there's quantum computers, there probably would have already been private quantum computers operating for like 10 years. And he says, we're probably at least 10 to 15 years away from publicly acknowledging that there's quantum computers. And so when you get to quantum computers that can start to hack 256 bit encryption, what you now create is the biggest treasure hunts in the world's ever seen. Imagine Satoshi's wallet, right? Mm-hmm. Now, whatever your theory is on who was Satoshi, I personally think it was Hal Finney, maybe in coordination with some other guys like Beck. But as soon as Hal Finney, deteriorated and then eventually died off, Satoshi was not heard from again, and the other guy, Dorian Satoshi Nakamoto, only lived a couple kilometers away from Hal Finney. So chances are,
who knows?
I think that that's the most logical thing, that Hal Finney was probably the majority of Satoshi, if not the Satoshi. But that wallet's sitting there. It's never been moved. Somebody one day is going to have a computer that can crack and get the codes, get the keys. That's right now at today's prices. What is that? That's a $20 or $30 billion treasure hunt.
Probably more,
right?
At this point. Yeah.
I think at the height it was worth $45 billion.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Right? And who knows? In 5 years from now, that might be a $1
100,
trillion treasure hunt. But imagine if you can get those keys. Now you can take all that. Now, so now all those lost Bitcoins can now be recovered in the future.
But here's another thing. Like, I don't think it's that easy to steal that necessarily. Like, you're right. If they like allow you to take,
if you find the keys, you get it.
But here's the
discover the
but
keys
you
to
can
those
still track where the network is going, right?
Of course.
So if they try to cash out or do some shady stuff, you can just block their wallets, right?
Who could?
The exchanges. So they're I'll tell you what's going on in law enforcement right now. They're developing systems where they can actually stop funds moving. So a lot of these miners,
only on exchanges. And centralized exchanges.
That's the first step.
Not decentralized.
The second step is, why do you think all the miners who are going to be based in the U.S., what do you think is going to happen? The U.S. government's going to tell them, listen, these accounts, these wallets, you can't process their transactions. Mm-hmm. So if you can't process their transactions, what happens? Their money's stuck.
Yeah, but as soon as the miners are corrupted...
You don't think that's going to happen?
I don't think I think the miners would shut down and go somewhere else.
But no. Here's the problem. It's too centralized.
What's too centralized? Mining?
The Bitcoin mining, yeah.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Why is it centralized?
Because Bitmain and a bunch of big players.
These are the producers of miners, but Intel's getting into the game too.
No, I'm talking about the people who have the most hash rate are very centralized.
It used to be in China.
No, it still is. It's not the U.S.
Yeah, the U.S. I think it only has 30% of the worldwide hash rate.
It shifted over, right, to the U.S.
You think the whole 70%?
No. But the vast majority is, I would say, let's say 30%.
Yeah, I heard 30%.
Let's just say it's
30% in the U.S.
Let's say they bring the U.S. on board, Canada on board, the Western countries, right?
They'd have to get a bunch of countries.
So they get over 50% hash rate. Let's say, suppose
that would be a legitimate tack on the Bitcoin network.
You don't think the governments are going to want to do that?
I think they'll try.
That's the way.
I don't think they'll be successful.
This is my thinking. I've been reading a lot about the U.S. digital dollar, right? The crypto dollar,
the CBDCs or whatever.
And my thinking is they want to destroy this network, right?
So they want to destroy which network? Bitcoin?
Like all cryptocurrencies. Mm-hmm. Why do you think they're letting FTX go under? If this was a bank, they'd bail it out. Second biggest bank going down, that won't happen. Mm-hmm. But exchanges are like, we want this stuff to go under because we want to implement our own system. Mm-hmm. And that's where my concern is, right? Where they get 51% control, start legislating it away, and eventually gets to the point where it's basically like fiat, except it's crypto, because they control all the big players, right? And all the hash rate. So that is definitely a concern, because I think
that would take a really, really organized event to happen. Because now, you'd have to get United States and Canada.
That's already like 40%.
That's already like 45% of the hash rate. You'd have to get one more nation on top of that.
And European Union's enough. Yeah,
probably. So then you'd have enough. But you know what? As soon as you started proposing that, I guarantee you the Bitcoin network would just boom.
But
it would diversify overnight.
You're right. It should.
It would shift, just like in China. Just like
they kicked the miners out of China.
They kicked them out. It was like boop, like that. It was a bleep. In the history of Bitcoin, it was not even detectable.
Russia's doing the same thing, right? So
Russia's opening the doors to Bitcoin.
Interesting.
Yeah. The central bank of Russia, they just declared that now they're going to allow payments in Bitcoin, and they're encouraging mining to come. Why? Because they know it goes against the U.S. dollar, right?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Uh-huh. So Russia's like, hey, if we can do anything to help to stabilize the U.S. dollar, why not? And let's help Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is definitely going to destabilize the U.S. dollar. It's going to destabilize the ruble too, but the ruble's already been destabilized.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah, so I think that the Bitcoin network has a certain and by the Bitcoin network, I'm not just talking about computers. I'm talking about the people behind it, the developing community and the mining community. I think we all share the same mindset. We want a freer world, not this this tyrannical, centralized world. We want everything decentralized. As soon as the government starts coming, they'll move. They'll move out. Or they'll shut them down. They'll say, fuck you.
I truly hope so. But they win if they shut down the Bitcoin network.
No. They'll shut them down in the States. And they'll open somewhere else.
I hope so.
They'll go somewhere else. Because if they don't shut them down, think about it. If they try to take over the Bitcoin mining community, and let's say they get up to 40, 45, 50%, guaranteed what's going to happen? All the other miners will stop. They'll come up with a protocol, and they'll say, these miners, you don't send data.
It'll probably be a fork in the network.
There'll be a fork or something like that, and they'll lock those miners out, and that's it. And that's what'll happen. It'll just shift. You can't stop it. It's truth. Bitcoin is truth. It's justice. It's freedom. It's sovereignty, and you can't stop it.
I truly hope so. Like I said, that's my main concern is governments are very creative when it comes to stuff like this.
But they're slow and they're stupid too.
When they want for normal things, but when you threaten their power, they're very swift.
Well, they still have the monopoly on violence.
They always will. They always will.
Yeah, but I guarantee you, they don't even see. Look, they could have. Oh, here's another thing. Here's how you stop Bitcoin. All right, right now, if I was advising the Federal Reserve, I could say, look, you want to shut down Bitcoin? You want to stop it? Here's how you do it. You guys already have a printing press. Print me off $5 trillion worth of US dollars. All right, and I'll go and buy up all the free Bitcoin in the world. Anything that comes on the exchange, I'll buy it. Yes, I'm going to drive the price up by 10x or 20x.
And then you'll just won't transact.
But I won't transact. I'll just keep on buying it, and I'll never transact it. And eventually, I'll own all the Bitcoin, or most of it. Yes, the people who own it now will be very rich, but at the same time, I can stop it by that. Their money printer could stop Bitcoin. Theoretically.
Hey, you're giving them a good idea right now.
I'm sure they already thought about this. I guarantee you, I'm no genius, evil genius. I'm sure they already thought about this, and I wouldn't doubt if they're already doing it.
Buy Bitcoin.
Buy Bitcoin. Because you know what? If they ever do, that would be the easiest non-violent way to destroy the Bitcoin network.
A couple people would get really wealthy, and then...
Not a couple. The 1% or 2% of the world that are holding Bitcoin right now, they would become the wealthiest people in the world.
But like I said, that's not a lot of people. Like you said, 1%. But what's going to happen? A lot of people are going to cash out. So it's that pool's going to shrink, right? Because some will
cash out at 50,000. Some will cash out at 75. But and a very small minority will hold on to where it goes up to like 1 million or 2 million.
Yeah.
But do you think Michael Saylor's going to sell at 500,000? No way. He will be the richest person in the world.
I don't think you'll sell.
No, I'm not selling. This is something. All the Bitcoin I accumulate, it'll be something that I'll pass on to my great grandchildren.
And they'll be thanking you for.
Absolutely, and but yeah, and eventually you'll have to transact some of it, right? Because if things get so expensive and you can't transact in fiat, you have to use some Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. It helps the world. And eventually I think Bitcoin actually stops trading as Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin eventually gets to a point where nobody can afford a Bitcoin and the world starts trading in sats.
And we're no longer talking about one Bitcoin's worth. We're talking about how much one sat is.
Yeah, that's right.
Totally agree.
I think the sat is what becomes the world's currency, not the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the asset that backs the currency. The currency is sats. Because there's 21 million Bitcoin, but I think there could be 2.1 trillion sats or maybe 21 trillion sats or something.
And then they could keep it dividing into smaller and smaller fractions.
No, 100 million is the most they can.
Well, I said if it gets to that point where it's worth so much, they can just start dividing it again.
Yeah, so they could eventually say, but again, you need consensus, and trying to get a consensus now is that's what makes the Bitcoin network the strongest in the world, because
that's a pro and a con, right? Mm-hmm. It's a pro that it prevents from a corporate interest and manipulation of the network. However, it's a con because they can't innovate.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword.
No, they can.
It's hard though.
I mean, look at the Lightning Network was essentially a consensus move. Everyone adopted the Lightning Network, allowed it to merge, but it's because it was such a good thing for the network.
And also, it's not like they didn't implement it on the blockchain. It's
it didn't change the initial blockchain.
Exactly.
They said, oh, this is another layer we can put on. So eventually, there could be another layer of currency, but it will never change the underlying network of Bitcoin.
Yep.
It'll just be another layer that people could say, okay, well, this will be another layer of currency that we could use, but everything is, again, it's all got to be verified by the strength of the Bitcoin network, which is great. So I think I love Bitcoin. I that's why I consider myself a Bitcoin maximalist, because I think Bitcoin fixes almost everything in the world, almost everything. You know, it fixes the money, it fixes the politics, it fixes the nation states, it fixes the wars, it fixes the poverty, it fixes the environment, it fixes everything. You know, it really does, almost everything. It doesn't fix people because we're still, you know, corruptible and all that stuff. But I even think it's going to improve the human race too, because and here's my little personal challenge that I'm going to put out there to all the Bitcoin maximalists and all the Bitcoin holders and people who love Bitcoin. The tenets of Bitcoin, if you had to give me the top 4 tenets of Bitcoin, what would you say they are?
That's tough.
The top 4. Or even the top 5, whatever. What would you say the top 5 tenets of Bitcoin? What does Bitcoin stand for?
Freedom, transparency. What else would I say? I would say those are definitely the top 2 for me. Yeah, I don't know. Those are
sovereignty.
Sovereignty is a good one.
Self-sovereignty, right? Truth.
True.
Right? Transparency, you could interchange that with truth, right?
Yeah.
You know, honesty, integrity, truth, right? Honesty, integrity, truth.
Scalability.
Yeah, well, that's more like the Lightning Network than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is not the most scalable. That's why we had the Bitcoin Cash thing. But yeah, I would say I agree with you. Truth and integrity, freedom, sovereignty, you know, justice. Right? How is it justice? Because it gives the ability for the unbanked, which is apparently like 5 or 6 billion people on this planet, which the majority of the people on this planet have no access to financial services.
That was shocking.
Now they can be their own bank. That's justice. Justice in the world. That's fairness and equality and fairness. Okay, so you got equality, justice, truth, freedom, sovereignty. I would say those are the 5 tenets of Bitcoin. So here's my challenge to everyone out there who loves Bitcoin and loves what it stands for. If you want to align yourself with these tenets of Bitcoin, start thinking about your whole life in this way. And one of the biggest things that you can do in your life is look at what you eat. Look at the things that you put in your body, okay? I personally have been a plant-based person. You know, I'm vegan for 13 of the 13 years of my life. I did eat meat. I grew up, you know, in the traditional American Canadian diet, but I've switched to a plant-based diet. And why do I feel like veganism is in alignment with Bitcoin? Because what we are doing to these animals, we have no right to do, right? We enslave them, we torture them, we murder them, all for our own apparent means, right? Like we for our taste buds, right? We don't need to eat them. You know, I'm a perfect example. You can live perfectly well on plants, right? You don't need to kill sentient, intelligent, you know, pain-feeling creatures. And they're not ours to do with what we please. We share this planet. There are roommates on this planet, all right? You wouldn't do this to your roommate. Why are we doing this to these beautiful creatures, right? So I put this challenge out there to the whole Bitcoin community. Think about what you eat. I'm not trying to preach or anything. I just want to put an idea out there for you guys to contemplate. If you really love the tenets of Bitcoin, then think about how those tenets apply to your life, specifically to what you put in your body and the effect of what you're doing to other species that we are just sharing this planet with. We may be more intelligent, but that just means that we should be more responsible for other.
Oh man, responsibility. That's a conversation that no one wants to do.
Just want to throw that out there. Think about it. You know?
But telling people to be responsible nowadays is like a swear word.
Well, we all are responsible for everything, right? You're responsible for your children. You're responsible for your pets.
Your tenants, your everything. Your tenants,
yeah. You got to be. You're responsible for your own body.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your medical decisions. You know, we're responsible as a community to act together so that we can all live in a fair, equal environment, right? So there is responsibility. You can't get away from it, but I think Bitcoin is the light that we should all be moving towards.
So to wrap this up, Ray was so nice to give us a giveaway. So we have a couple of chains.
Yeah, so we have. Oh, you want to grab one?
Yeah,
I'll show you.
one.
I have some Bitcoin keychains we're going to be giving away, and they're really cool. Put them on your keys. Put them. They're really cool. We have some of those. My friend here, he's going to come up with some kind of qualification for whatever you have to do to get one. And then also my new best friends at CoinSmart, they are going to be supplying me with some swag, which I'll again forward, and you guys again we'll figure out how to get some of that out too. I don't know what it's going to be. It could be hats, it could be t-shirts, it could be hoodies. I'm not sure, but we'll get some of that out to you. I look forward to more conversations with you and more things that we can do. You gave me some great ideas today in our conversations earlier, and I look forward to talking to you on a regular basis, and also just getting more and more immersed in this Bitcoin community, because I love the Bitcoin community. I love how cooperative we are. Somebody on that note, somebody asked me, Ray, you're this integration of the Bitcoin miners with the hot water tanks. They said you should patent that. Like you should really patent that. I'm like, no.
That's not the Bitcoin community.
That's not the Bitcoin standard. I'm going to give it away for free. When I get my website up and running, I'm going to put a diagram and I'm going to put links on how you can buy everything, and you can just do it yourself in your home or in your business or in your property. You can do it yourself. That's the way Bitcoin is. We all help each other. We all try to make the world a better place. There's more than enough money. Like I'm doing well enough. I don't need to make money off this.
This building is providing your lifestyle, I imagine.
We're gonna do pretty well, and we're gonna do a lot more of these.
Absolutely.
And if you're interested in the future at all, getting involved, there's going to be partnership and investment opportunities.
All right. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to?
Right now, I haven't even set up my email address through the bitcoinbuildings.com. So the best way to get in touch with me is send me an email at Ray, R-A-Y, M as in money, .Blanchard, BLANCHARD, @gmail.com. I am eventually going to put it at Ray at thebitcoinbuildings.com. But yeah, contact me on that email address. I'd love to, a guy called me up last week, and I don't even know if we're going to be able to do any business together, but we ended up talking for 3 hours because we both just love Bitcoin. My wife was like, "Where are you? What's going on?" I was like, "I'm sorry, I just started talking to a Bitcoiner," and we just kept going and going.
Yeah, that conversation just sucks you in.
Yeah, because we're also like, when you become orange pilled, you almost become more optimistic about the world.
Yeah, you
see the better. You see the world in a better light. You see people in a better light. It takes the weight and the evilness of our current financial system that basically enslaves everyone. It just kind of takes that away and says, okay, we can be free. We can be free, and we can actually enjoy our lives, and we can save for the future and not have to work our whole lives away.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much for doing this podcast. It was great. I'm sure we'll have you on when you have your next Bitcoin building or when you do some cool events here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you.